I didn't notice the door until the second week after we moved in. It was small, no taller than 3 feet, nestled into the wall beneath the staircase like something out of a children's storybook. At first, I figured it was just a crawlspace or an old utility cupboard. The realtor had never mentioned it. My wife, Jess, swore it wasn't there when we toured the place. But I chalked it up to us being overwhelmed. We were juggling the move, starting new jobs, and trying to keep our 5-year-old, Noah, entertained in a house that still echoed with unfamiliar emptiness. I wish I'd left it alone. The first night I opened the little door, it was just out of curiosity. Behind it was a dark, shallow room with no flooring, just dirt and stone. The walls were rough, and the air smelled like mold and something older, like a root cellar that hadn't been disturbed in decades. I closed the door and didn't think much of it. But the next morning, Jess asked if I'd been up during the night. "I heard you walking," she said, her face pale and tired. "Downstairs. Pacing." I hadn't. Later that week, Noah started waking up screaming. "It's the man in the wall," he sobbed one night, clinging to my neck. "He doesn't have eyes. He's listening." I tried to soothe him, told him it was just a nightmare. But his drawings started to change. Stick figures, yes, but now there were always 2. One was Noah. The other was tall, with long black arms and no face, just a gaping circle where the eyes should have been. He always drew that figure standing near the staircase. I began waking up at 3:13 a.m. almost every night. Not by sound. Not by dreams. Just awake. Wide-eyed. Like something was watching me. Sometimes I thought I heard faint creaks below us, but I never found anything when I checked. Then one night, Jess shook me awake. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. I did. A soft dragging noise, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. It stopped as soon as I opened the bedroom door. The next day, I installed a baby monitor near the little door under the stairs. That night, as we lay in bed, the monitor crackled. Whispers. Low, guttural, just beneath the static. I couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like someone talking right next to the mic. Then, a loud bang. Like a fist slamming against the device. I ran downstairs. The door was open. Inside, the space looked deeper. Wider than I remembered. I knelt to look inside, and for just a second, I saw movement. A pale hand retreating into the dark. We packed up and left that night. Stayed in a hotel until we could break our lease. I never went back inside. A few weeks later, I got a call from the landlord. He was annoyed, said we should have told him about the damage. I didn't understand. "The room under the stairs," he said. "The one someone dug out. There's claw marks all over the walls. And bones." I hung up. You ever see something so out of place, so wrong, that your brain tries to explain it away just to keep you sane? That was me, the night I first saw him. A man. In my window. Smiling. It had been less than 2 weeks since I moved into the house, an old 2-bedroom rental in a quiet cul-de-sac outside of Portland. Nothing special. Beige siding, sagging porch. It needed work, but it was cheap, and after the breakup, I needed to get out of the city. The first few nights were uneventful. Quiet, even peaceful. But by day 9, something shifted. It was around 11:30 p.m. I was watching a movie on my laptop, trying to keep my mind off the silence. My living room window, big, facing the backyard, had no curtains yet. I hadn't gotten around to buying any. That's when I saw him. Just a silhouette at first. A man standing motionless outside the window, facing in. His arms hung straight down, stiff. His head tilted slightly, as if he were studying me. At first, I didn't move. My brain told me it was a shadow, maybe a tree. Maybe even a trick of light. But then he raised one hand, slow, deliberate, and pressed it against the glass. I bolted upright, heart slamming in my chest. And then he was gone. I ran outside with a flashlight, scanning the backyard. Nothing. No footprints in the dirt. No broken fence. No trace. I slept with the lights on that night. The next day, I installed motion-activated cameras. One out front, one in the back. Just for peace of mind. But the cameras never caught anything. Over the next week, things escalated. Every night, between midnight and 3 a.m., I'd catch glimpses, reflections in the glass, shifting shapes in the corners of my vision. Once, I swear I saw someone duck behind the couch just as I entered the room. But when I looked, no one was there. And then the dreams started. In one, I was paralyzed in bed, and he stood in the doorway, head cocked, grinning with too many teeth. In another, I was outside, looking in through the window, watching myself sleep. On the 10th night, I awoke to the sound of whispering. Faint, like someone talking just beneath their breath. It was coming from the living room. I crept out of bed and moved toward the hallway, every floorboard groaning beneath me. The whispering stopped as I reached the corner. I leaned out just enough to see the window. He was there. Inside the house. Standing in front of the window, staring out. As if he were the one afraid of what was out there. His back was to me, but somehow, I knew he was smiling. I ran. Didn't even grab my keys. Just bolted barefoot out the door, down the street, until I reached the gas station 3 blocks away. The guy working there let me call the police. They found nothing. No sign of forced entry. All the doors were locked. No fingerprints. Just a single muddy footprint in the living room. Facing the window. I moved out the next day. Left half my stuff behind. But sometimes, when I'm walking down the street at night, I get this feeling, like someone's watching me from a window. And I don't mean from inside the house. I mean from the outside. I had just moved into my first home. Not an apartment. Not a rental. A real house, with cracked paint, rusted hinges, and a basement that smelled like wet dirt and forgotten things. It was mine. I moved in alone. I'd just turned 30, gone through a rough layoff, and inherited a small chunk of money from an uncle I barely knew. I figured it was time to start over. The house was built in 1946. 2 bedrooms, a narrow kitchen, and a basement with a low ceiling that made you hunch as you walked. The crawlspace sat at the very back, tucked behind an old furnace and a pile of rotting wood. A sealed wooden hatch led into it. The previous owner had nailed it shut. I should have left it that way. The noises started during the first storm. Wind howled through the trees, and rain battered the roof. I was in bed, listening to the creaks of the house settle around me, when I heard it, soft, almost imperceptible. A whisper. Faint and breathy, like someone exhaling words into my ear from inches away. I sat up, heart pounding. Nothing. The next night, it came again. Same time. Same soft whisper. I started walking the house at night, listening. I checked the windows, the attic, the basement. Everything was locked up tight. I told myself it was old pipes. Maybe the wind. Or maybe just my mind, playing tricks on me in a new, empty space. Then, 3 nights in, I went into the basement with a flashlight. That was the first time I noticed the hatch was open. The nails were gone, clean, as if removed with care. The hatch itself was slightly ajar, revealing nothing but darkness below. I slammed it shut. Hammered it back down. Didn't sleep that night. The whispering continued. Louder. Clearer. Not words I could understand, just the cadence of speech, like someone desperately trying to be heard from behind a wall. I began recording it. Left my phone in the basement overnight with the voice memo app running. The next morning, I played it back. At first, just silence. Then creaks. Then, let me out. I stopped breathing. It wasn't a voice I recognized. It was raspy, wet, close. Like the speaker's mouth was pressed against the microphone. I deleted the file. Threw my phone across the room. Then, like an idiot, I went down there again. I don't know why, curiosity, maybe. Or some sense of obligation, like I had to face whatever it was. I brought a crowbar. Opened the hatch. The smell hit first. Not mold. Not dirt. Rot. The crawl space was deeper than I expected. The earth had been dug out into a narrow tunnel, barely wide enough for someone to slide through. The walls were clawed, like something had tried to climb out. I held my breath and leaned closer, shining the flashlight down the passage. That's when I saw the fingers. Not moving. Just there. Gray, dirty, curled against the soil like someone had died reaching upward. I slammed the hatch and ran. I called the police the next day. They sent a team to investigate. They found bones. A full skeleton, curled up at the end of the crawlspace, buried beneath 6 inches of dirt. The coroner estimated it had been down there for at least 50 years. No ID. No records. Just a set of broken fingernails and a fractured jaw. The detective who called me afterwards said something that still keeps me up at night. She was trying to get out. We think she was buried alive. Scratched the walls bloody. Probably died screaming. I sold the house 3 months later. But sometimes, usually around 2 or 3 a.m., I still hear it. That same whisper, just barely audible over the hum of my fan. Let me out. And I wonder, what if I never actually heard her leave? I was never superstitious. Not until we moved into that house. It was a modest 2-story just outside of Dayton, nothing fancy, but it had character. Original wood floors, a big oak tree in the front yard, and an unfinished basement that smelled like rain and iron. We moved in early spring, and for the first few weeks, it felt like a fresh start. Then the basement door started opening by itself. At first, I figured it was just an airflow issue. Old houses do that. I'd find it cracked open in the morning, the dark stairwell yawning beneath it like an open mouth. I'd close it and move on with my day. But then it started happening more often. And always at night. Did you leave the basement open? I asked Rachel one morning over coffee. She shook her head. Didn't go down there. Haven't since we moved in. I thought maybe our dog, Scout, was nudging it open, until I saw him one night, standing perfectly still in front of the closed basement door, ears pinned back, growling low in his throat. When I tried to step around him to reach for the knob, he backed away and whined, eyes fixed on the door like it was going to open by itself. I started locking it before bed. The lock would be undone by morning. I didn't tell Rachel right away. She'd been stressed with work, and I didn't want to add to it. But I could feel it wearing on me. I started checking the door compulsively, sometimes 4 or 5 times a night. I even wedged a chair under the handle, like I was in some cheap horror movie. It didn't matter. The next morning, the chair was knocked over, the door wide open again. One night, I decided to sit up and watch. I killed the lights, sat in the hallway with a baseball bat and a mug of lukewarm coffee. Midnight passed. Nothing. 1:30 a.m., still quiet. But around 3:10, I felt it, a shift in the air. Like a pressure drop. My ears popped. The doorknob turned. I froze, not breathing. The latch clicked softly and the door creaked open, inch by inch, revealing nothing but thick blackness beyond the threshold. I rushed in and flipped the basement light on. Empty. Just the usual, boxes, a spare water heater, and a laundry machine that always made a knocking sound. I checked every corner, every shadow. Nothing. But I still felt watched. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Rachel confronted me in the kitchen. "Something's wrong with this house," she said quietly, clutching her coffee like a shield. I nodded. The basement. She looked at me, eyes wide. You've heard it too? I hadn't heard anything. She swallowed. At night. From down there. It whispers. I didn't ask what it said. I didn't want to know. I bought a motion camera and set it up at the end of the hallway, pointing at the basement door. It had night vision, auto recording, the works. I was half hoping it would catch nothing, just prove I was losing it. But deep down, I already knew. The next morning, I reviewed the footage. At 3:17 a.m., the door opened on its own. No visible cause. No breeze. No movement. The door simply opened, slow, deliberate. Then, from the darkened basement, a hand reached up. It didn't look right. The fingers were too long. They wrapped around the edge of the door, pausing there. Then the door slowly swung wider, but no body followed. The hand retreated. I stopped the video. Deleted it. That day, I called a contractor and asked if he could permanently seal the basement shut. Cement it off. He laughed, thought I was joking. I didn't press it. That night, I hammered a wooden board across the door. Scout still wouldn't go near it. In fact, he refused to leave our bedroom entirely. 2 days passed. No opening. No whispers. No cold spots. I thought maybe we'd done it. Maybe we were free. But then the knocking started. It was faint at first. Barely audible over the hum of the fridge. Just a single knock, around 3 a.m. The next night, it came again. 3 soft knocks. By the third night, it was constant, frenzied, angry pounding that made the entire house tremble. The board rattled. The doorknob twisted violently. I grabbed the bat and stood in the hallway, heart slamming in my chest. Then, silence. And a voice. Not loud, not clear, but unmistakably real. Let me up. Rachel screamed from the bedroom. Scout barked until he was hoarse. I didn't move until morning. That same day, we packed up and left. We didn't list the house. We didn't try to sell it. We left everything behind. It's been 2 years since we moved into a new place. Different city. New job. A smaller house, no basement. But sometimes, at night, I'll wake up for no reason. The air will feel too still. Too quiet. And I'll swear I hear something. A knock. Very faint. Coming from below the floorboards. It started with a blink. Just one. A tiny, almost unnoticeable delay. I was brushing my teeth, half asleep, when I caught it. I blinked. And in the mirror, I blinked again, except the reflection didn't move at the same time. It was maybe a half-second late, like a lag in a live stream. I stared at myself, toothbrush hanging from my mouth, foam dripping onto the sink. The reflection stared back, perfectly still. Then it smiled. I spun around so fast I almost slipped. But of course, the bathroom was empty. Just white tile, the faint hum of the vent, and the rhythmic drip of a leaky faucet. I laughed it off. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was tired. But it happened again the next night. And the night after that. At first, I blamed stress. Moving into a new place always messes with your head. This house, small, 2 bedrooms, single story, was older than I'd realized. Every mirror in the place had some sort of flaw, warped glass, faint streaks, tiny cracks. I told myself that's all it was. Until the movements became independent. I'd scratch my head and see my reflection's hand drop too soon. I'd shift slightly and see it remain still. Once, I waved, just to test it, and my reflection didn't move at all. It just watched. I stopped using mirrors entirely. Started shaving in the kitchen using my phone's front camera. I avoided the hallway where the long antique mirror hung, too heavy to take down without tools. I even taped a blanket over the bathroom mirror. Then, one morning, the blanket was gone. Not fallen. Not crumpled on the floor. Just gone. I asked my girlfriend, Emily, if she'd taken it down. No, she said, not looking up from her coffee. Why would I? You were the one who put it up in the first place. I stared at her. You didn't touch it at all? She raised an eyebrow. What's going on with you lately? I wanted to tell her, but the words felt ridiculous even in my head. Nothing. I've just been sleeping weird. But I wasn't sleeping. That night, I woke up gasping from a dream I couldn't remember. I got out of bed, stumbled to the bathroom, and, without thinking, turned on the light. The mirror was uncovered again. I was too tired to process it. I leaned forward to splash water on my face and saw something move behind me. A flicker, barely perceptible. But there was no one there. I stared at the mirror. In it, I looked off. My posture was wrong. My eyes were slightly wider than they should have been. My expression, too neutral. Uncanny. Then it moved. Not me, it. The reflection tilted its head slowly to the left, like it was studying me. Its lips curled into the faintest smirk. I backed away, heart thudding in my chest, but the reflection didn't mirror me. It stayed where it was, calm, frozen. I shut the light off and ran back to bed. From that night on, I started noticing it in every reflective surface. My phone screen when it dimmed. The microwave door. Even in the turned-off TV. Sometimes, when I wasn't looking directly, I'd see myself staring back, expression blank. Waiting. Emily started noticing something too. You've been acting weird, she said one evening. Like, twitchy. I tried to brush it off, but she pressed. You've been talking in your sleep, she added. And last night, you just stood in front of the mirror for 10 minutes. I called your name. You didn't answer. I was asleep, I whispered. She nodded slowly. That's what scared me. I installed a small camera in the hallway facing the mirror. I wanted proof, wanted to see if I was going crazy or if something else was happening. That night, I didn't sleep. Just waited. At 2:41 a.m., the hallway light flicked on by itself. I checked the live feed on my phone. There I was, standing in front of the mirror. Except I was still in bed. I watched as the version of me on the screen leaned forward, pressing its hands against the glass like it was trying to crawl through it. Its movements were slow, deliberate. Predatory. It smiled. I shut the app, heart hammering in my ears. In the morning, the mirror was cracked, just a thin fracture across the surface, as if someone had pressed too hard against it. I tried to show Emily the footage, but it was gone. The file had corrupted somehow. The hallway was empty again, and I looked insane. I think we should go, I said. She stared at me. Over a mirror? I didn't answer. She didn't come home that night. I called her. Texted her. Nothing. Around 3 a.m., I heard a thud from the hallway. I grabbed a flashlight and crept out of the bedroom. The mirror was shattered, completely. Bits of glass littered the floor like teeth. And behind the frame, where the wall should have been, was nothing. Just blackness. No wires. No studs. Just a hole. And inside the hole, something moved. It shifted, slow and smooth, as if swimming through oil. I could hear it breathing, wet, rattling, wrong. A pale hand reached toward the edge. I dropped the flashlight. In the flickering dark, I ran. I don't live there anymore. I don't know what happened to Emily. The police found the house abandoned, no signs of struggle, no blood. Just the broken mirror, and a blank wall where the hole had been. They think I imagined it. Maybe I did. But now, every mirror I see, every reflection, I look just a little longer than I should. I study it. Watch for any delay. Any smirk. Any twitch that isn't mine. Because I know it's still out there. And one day, it's going to step through. I didn't notice the voices right away. The first few weeks in the new house were a blur, unpacking, organizing, adjusting to the unfamiliar sounds an old house makes. I chalked it all up to creaking pipes, settling wood, and my imagination running wild. But then the whispers started. It was subtle at first. A faint murmur when I walked past the hallway near the kitchen. Like someone having a hushed conversation in the next room. The kind of thing you'd mistake for a TV left on in the background, except I don't watch TV, and I live alone. I stopped and listened. Silence. I remember brushing it off, convincing myself it was nothing. Just house sounds. Every place has them. But deep down, I knew better. The house was old, built in the 1940s, with thick plaster walls and narrow hallways that swallowed sound. It had been empty for a couple years before I moved in, though I never found out why. The real estate agent didn't offer much, just said the previous owner was eccentric and passed away in hospice. No relatives to claim the place. I thought I got a good deal. I was wrong. One night, I was up late reading in the living room when I heard it again, clearer this time. A soft, rasping whisper drifting through the walls, coming from the hallway. I paused and held my breath. He's still here. The words were muffled but distinct. I stood up slowly, every muscle tense. The hallway was empty, lights off, no breeze, no vents. And yet the whisper came again, low and deliberate. He doesn't know. I checked every room, every closet. Even the crawlspace beneath the stairs. Nothing. Just me and the increasingly cold, stale air. I told myself it was stress. Work had been brutal. My sleep was off. That same week I bought a white noise machine and started going to bed with headphones in. It helped. For a little while. Then the voices got louder. Not constant, just timed. Like they knew when I was most vulnerable. I'd be washing dishes and hear it behind me, in the walls above the sink. Or brushing my teeth and catch a whisper behind the bathroom mirror. He's listening now. That one stopped me cold. I stopped bringing people over. I stopped answering calls. My house became a sealed bubble of paranoia, and I sank into it willingly. The only thing that made it tolerable was pretending it wasn't happening. Then came the knocking. It started on a Tuesday night. Just after midnight. A slow, soft knock from inside the wall behind my bed. I sat up, heartbeat thudding. Another knock, 3 taps, deliberate. Not from the window. Not from outside. From inside the wall. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the hallway in the dark, listening to the house breathe. At around 3:12 a.m., I heard it again, soft shuffling footsteps from somewhere behind the walls. Not mice. Not plumbing. Footsteps. And then a whisper, right next to my ear. "Don't look." I spun around. No one was there. Just my own reflection in the window, pale and terrified. I started documenting everything. Audio recordings. Notes. Timelines. I thought if I could understand the pattern, I could stop it. Or at least prove I wasn't insane. But the more I listened, the clearer it became that the voices weren't random. They were watching me. Commenting on me. He's writing again. He's afraid. Almost time. Time for what? I stopped going to work. My boss left voicemails, but I didn't listen to them. My phone stayed on silent. My fridge was empty. I barely noticed. The only thing I noticed were the voices, getting closer every night. I started tearing into the walls. Literally. I bought a crowbar and a flashlight and began prying open the drywall in the hallway where the whispers were strongest. I pulled insulation out by the handful. I wanted to see it. Whatever it was. That's when I found the journal. It was hidden between the studs, wrapped in a dry, brittle piece of cloth. The leather was cracked, but the pages inside were intact. It belonged to the previous owner, Elliot Langston. Dated back to the 90s. His entries started normal: gardening notes, grocery lists, thoughts about aging. But then, about halfway through, they turned darker. He started hearing things. Voices in the walls. Whispered warnings. Just like me. He believed the house was listening. That something inside it fed off fear, off isolation. That the more he acknowledged it, the more real it became. His final entry read: "I made a mistake. I listened too closely. Now it knows my voice. It wears it. It's not in the walls anymore. It's in me." That was the last page. I dropped the journal and backed away. Then, from the hallway, I heard my own voice. "He's found it. It was perfect. Identical. Coming from the wall." And then another voice, from deeper in the house, Emily's voice. My sister, who hadn't visited in months. "Open the door, please." I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just sat there as the voices multiplied. Friends. Family. People I hadn't heard from in years. All whispering through the walls. All asking me to come closer. And beneath all of them, one voice stood out. A low, gravelly whisper that didn't sound human. "Let us in." The lights flickered. The knocking started again. All around me. In the walls. In the ceiling. Beneath the floors. Like dozens of fists pounding to get out, or in. I ran. I didn't lock the door behind me. I didn't pack anything. I drove until the sun came up and I was hours away. That was 3 months ago. I've tried to move on. I rent a small place now, modern, clean, with no history.